picking on the wrong victims, as it were, Isabel. A care worker called Cameron Bell, 23, has today been sent to jail for 9 months. And what she did was she filmed and sort of streamed on TikTok a riot taking place in Tamworth in Staffordshire. That's all she did. And she could be heard as she filmed it and live streamed it. Not very nice. She referred to the asylum seekers as tramps. She didn't take part in the violence. She filmed it. She put it on TikTok. She's got 9 months. 9 months. I'm not condoning what she did, but really? Really? Oh, and by the way, you'll be astonished to hear that Cameron, care worker, is a white and working class. Why is it always white working class people that the authorities seem to pick on?
I don't know Cameron Bell. I've never had any contact with her, but I do know that we are a nation that is in desperate need of care workers, and I don't think it's proportionate to jail a young woman who, to the best of my knowledge, although I haven't studied the case in any detail, has never been in trouble with the police before, with the law. She's got a 9-month jail sentence for violent disorder. Now, she didn't commit any acts of violent disorder. She did plead guilty to violent disorder, and I certainly don't want to cast any aspersions on whoever represented her. I don't know the details of the case, but this young woman was not violent. You know, you've just described what she did. She filmed some pretty nasty behaviour that none of us condone, and she put that on a social media platform along with a bit of her own not very nice commentary. I mean, fine, you know, if we had a Britain that was completely trouble-free, where there weren't violent criminals on the rampage, where people didn't have to walk the streets in fear of being stabbed or mugged or having their phone taken, where shoplifting wasn't at absolutely epidemic levels, you know, then great. You know, let's have a very harsh attitude to anyone who says anything very unacceptable. But we don't have that luxury. We don't. You know, our prisons are full to the brim. This government has been releasing repeat offenders. This government has not been jailing paedophiles, but instead chooses to jail 23-year-old care workers. There's something very, very wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, she perhaps deserves a fine, suspended sentence. That's what her lawyer suggested. But no, the judge, John Edwards, said that her live streaming was abhorrent and had the potential to fan the flames 9 months. I think that is incredibly...
Well, the potential, that's the word there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Potential.
It's just... It's ludicrously disproportionate. Talking of which, as we were just discussing on Remembrance Sunday morning, our colleague, the Telegraph columnist Alison Pearson, had 2 Rozzers knock on her door from Essex Police to warn her about a tweet she posted a year ago. She thinks it was probably something to do with Hamas, because that would have been in the slipstream of October the 7th, but she's not sure because they won't tell her. Turns out that the Chief Constable of Essex Police, who would have been responsible for this ridiculous saga, they must have known. They knew what they were doing. They knew that Alison would, of course, publicise this. They're actually proud that they did this. But in an earlier declaration, the Chief Constable of Essex Police, a guy called Ben Julian Harrington, he said that that hate crime poses one of the biggest threats to the British community, and he likened hate crime to sort of rape, murder, God knows what. I mean, it's extraordinary. Hate crimes are the biggest threat to our community. This is the thinking that informed this ludicrous knock on Alison's door.
Absolutely ridiculous. I expected the police to back down today, you know, seeing the absolute furore that their actions have caused, rapping on the door of a prominent national newspaper journalist on a Sunday morning, Remembrance Sunday, no less. about something that she may have posted on social media a year ago, and then not telling her what it was that she'd posted. I thought they'd back down in sheer shame and embarrassment at their completely over-the-top actions. But oh no, they're doubling down, not backing down, they're doubling down.
Yeah.
You know, making a kind of virtue out of the fact that they police without fear or favour. Well, how about policing with some common sense? It's no good to us if you police without fear or favour, but you're not policing with any common sense and any proportionality. You know, any sensible person ought to be able to see that Alison Pearson is not guilty of inciting anything on her Twitter or her X or any other social media platform. She is a commentator, very much like you and I, Kev. And this is really, really dark stuff.
It really is.
The police are almost proud of it makes me extremely concerned for the industry that we're in and the views and opinions that we're all entitled to express. No one's saying it's okay to say hateful things, but when the definition of hateful has become so utterly subjective and loose and flaccid, then the whole thing just becomes an absurdity. And as a society, we're eating ourselves.
I know, it is ridiculous. This chief constable, in the document that he published in 2021, he was talking about the greatest potential threat, harm and risk to our people and communities, but they also, this is hate crimes, that represent the greatest opportunity for prevention. The other themes that he felt were threats to our community in the same report, this hate crime was in essence likened to the following: knife crime, rape, child abuse, child sexual exploitation, domestic abuse, drugs, county lines, serious organised crime, fraud, burglary, robbery and cybercrime. Anyone who thinks that hate crimes are as dangerous as that list I've just declared, it has no business being a chief constable. The trouble is, that's what these top cops are like. They're just virtue signallers. This is, we just talked about the kid, the 23-year-old girl who's been sent to jail for, basically posting nasty things on TikTok. We know that other people have been jailed for social media posts during those riots. And now Alison Pearson. What is happening in this country? We're turning into North Korea.
I genuinely don't know. I mean, there are indices of press freedom throughout the world, and personal freedoms, liberties to speak out. And, countries are ranked according to whether they take a civilised attitude to this sort of thing or not. And Britain's usually fairly high up in the League of Honour up there, as a country where you are able to say disobliging things about, for example, the Prime Minister or the Leader of the Opposition and criticise the police and, not be egregiously offensive, but, an ability to actually report on something that's happening before your very eyes, which is another way of saying live streaming. I mean, since when was it an offence to live stream something that's happening on your street or around the corner from you? I don't know why that, I don't get why that's an offence. That's what journalists actually do. By that measure, we could all be in an awful lot of trouble all the time. I think her offence was the added commentary, which I must say that I've not listened to. I'm not condoning it. This conversation you and I are having, Kev, is about proportionality.
Yeah, it is.
And it's about whether or not people who get a knock at the door, and I don't think they should be getting a knock at the door at all. I mean, most of the time, if you report a burglary, you'd be very lucky if the police turned up, particularly on a Sunday morning, to help you. But at the very least, if the police are going to turn up at your door to accuse you of something or say you've been accused of something, have the courtesy to tell the person what it is that they've got to defend themselves against. Yeah,
and these top coppers, are so worried about offending ethnic communities that they describe a disgraceful riot, mayhem, violence, destruction as a Romanian vigil, and yet they seem to proceed with impunity in their view when it's white working class people. They think they won't get any comeback there, so they're the people they pick on. And what, of course, law and order should be is completely colourblind. Everybody should be treated exactly the same. It's quite clear that that is not the case in this country, and two-tier policing is out of control, I would say, out of control.